Hello, my amazing friends. Welcome back to Entitled People, the place where we showcase stories about individuals who genuinely believe the entire world spins around them. Today's episode is packed with wild neighbor drama. One original poster even shares a jaw-dropping story about a boy who repeatedly broke into her home and acted like he lived there. If you've ever had terrible neighbors, you'll definitely connect with these tales. I hope you enjoy, and remember, don't shake your head too hard. As always, you can send your posts to the email listed here. Let's jump right in. When I was a kid, my family lived on a cul-de-sac at the top of a hill. I was about 6 when new neighbors moved in down at the base of the hill, 3 houses away on the opposite side. It's 4 reasons I'll never understand. They were some of the nastiest people we'd ever met. They even tried to have our dog put down once just because she slipped out of the yard, sat calmly on the sidewalk for a couple of hours. That family had 3 children, the eldest daughter around 12, the middle child a 9-year-old boy, and the youngest daughter about 7. The incident I'm about to describe happened when I was 14. My younger brother was 11. One afternoon, Mom picked us up from jiu-jitsu lessons, and when we got home, we saw all 3 neighbor kids sprinting away from our house. It confused us, but honestly, it wasn't unusual. They constantly trespassed in our yard, no matter how many times we told them to stop. Later, after dinner, my brother and I went outside to play. It was autumn, and the yard was covered in leaves. While chasing him through a pile, he suddenly tripped, and that's when we realized there was a pitchfork hidden underneath. The pitchfork belonged to my parents, but it had always been locked away in our shed. When Mom checked, she discovered the lock had been smashed open. She immediately suspected the neighbor kids. Furious, she marched down the street and confronted their mother, explaining how dangerous it was to bury a pitchfork in our yard. Woman apologized and left, but the very next day she returned with her kids, this time acting hostile. She accused us of maintaining an unsafe yard where her children might get hurt and threatened to sue if anything happened. While we argued, she even nudged her son toward the leaf pile, and he deliberately jumped in as if to prove her ridiculous point. Needless to say, we retrieved the pitchfork, locked it away again, and installed a stronger lock. After that, the feud escalated. That neighbor constantly used her kids as pawns in her attempts to either sue us or get us in trouble with the law, and that's where the first story ends. Some people are honestly unhinged. Can you believe that? Injure her own children just to build a lawsuit against us? Some people should never be parents now. On to another story. My fiancé and I currently live in a sober living program for couples. We've been here since March and are set to graduate next month. Recently, another couple moved into the apartment upstairs. The woman we'll call her Karen has been constantly asking us for favors since day one. A little context. My fiancé has a good-paying job, but every spare dollar is going toward saving for an apartment if we don't have one by the time we graduate. We'll literally end up homeless. I don't mind helping others when I can, but right now I can barely keep myself afloat at first. Karen's requests were small, borrowing sugar, an egg, things like that. But soon, she was asking for bus fare, perfume, even my clothes. Having been in her shoes before, I tried to be kind. But today was the breaking point. While my fiancé and I were napping, with a clear "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door, Karen knocked anyway. Fiancé answered, already irritated, and she immediately burst into fake tears, claiming her baby needed formula and that she urgently needed $50 to send to her mother. If not, she said her mom would terminate her parental rights. My fiancé calmly asked when she could repay the money. She dodged, saying she didn't know, but promised she'd definitely pay us back. He told her he couldn't just hand out $50 without some kind of timeline. She snapped, insisting she'd already told him she would pay it back. He apologized, but held firm, explaining things were tight for us too. Suddenly, she switched her story and claimed she could pay it back tomorrow. We both knew she was lying. So he said no and closed the door. Minutes later, we heard her cursing outside, ranting that she'd never help anyone here again, even shouting that we were cold pieces of garbage, letting a baby go hungry. That was the final straw. Nobody was letting her baby starve except her and her partner. If I truly believed that child needed formula, I'd have bought it myself and delivered it directly. I wasn't about to hand her cash. I knew she wouldn't. Spend on the baby. As a recovering addict myself, I recognized the manipulation. Even if her story about her mother was real, the fact her mom was ready to cut ties said all this wasn't a new problem. We'd never told her no until that day, yet she acted like we were villains. A bag of sugar or an egg is one thing. 50 hard-earned dollars when we're fighting to stay off the streets? That's entirely different. The truth is, Karen and her partner were capable of getting jobs like the rest of us. It wasn't our responsibility to take care of 2 grown adults. And sure enough, it turned out we were right to distrust her. Not long after, she was caught stealing from someone else in the program. Search of her apartment uncovered marijuana. A crack pipe, used needles, you name it. She and her partner were immediately arrested and removed from the facility. I hate to say it, but honestly, good. They were sabotaging not only their own sobriety, but everyone else's too. At least now, they can't drag anyone else down with them. Finally, here's a brief setup for another story. I live out in the countryside on 40 acres of farmland. Our house sits near a main road and a county road with just a couple of neighbors. Farther down, my husband and I share the farmhouse with our dogs and some outdoor animals. We don't have children, and our life is usually quiet and peaceful. Twice now, a young child who lives about 1/3 of a mile down the road is shown. Up inside our house without invitation? Yes, inside. The first time, I was home alone. I'd just taken a shower, was in my underwear, doing my nails, and watching a show in my makeup room, when I noticed a small shadow pass by. A preschooled kid pushed through my fence gate and opened my front door. I didn't recognize him, so I FaceTimed my husband, thinking maybe he knew who it was. We checked our cameras, but there were no adults, no cars, nobody nearby. I scrambled to throw on some pants before stepping out into the living room, where I found this little boy running wild, chasing my dogs, playing in the kitchen like he lived there. I asked his name, asked where his parents were, but he ignored me and kept playing. After a few minutes, he let himself out, slipped through the gate, and ran behind my house. I lost sight of him. Soon after, a young girl came running up from the neighbor's direction, yelling, "Where the heck is he?" I told her I had seen him head behind my house, and that she could check there. She looked irritated, but eventually, she managed to corral him and take him back home. I was furious, though, and shouted, "Keep that kid off my property and out of my house." She just called back a half-hearted sorry and left. No one ever came back to apologize. Later, my husband asked their family about it. Their excuse? They were unloading groceries, and he slipped away. How they didn't notice for so long, I still can't understand. Fast forward about a year, the boy now, maybe 5 or 6 Scott, into my house again. This time, my husband called me from work to tell me. He'd come in through the dog door. My husband wasn't sure if it was the same boy, but our cameras confirmed it. The footage showed him opening the locked gate, trying the front door, and when it didn't open, crawling through the dog door. Our dogs use that door since the yard is fenced in, but apparently the boy figured he could use it too. Once inside, he let the dogs in, took off his shoes, jumped on the couch, played with the dogs, turned on the TV, raided the fridge for ice pops, and even ate an orange from our fruit basket. He treated the place like it was his. He was in there. For 15 minutes before the police showed up, when the officers arrived, they asked his name, where he lived, and where his parents were. He answered honestly, even saying, "Mommy told me I could come here to play." The police corrected him immediately, telling him this wasn't his home, and that his mother did not have permission to send him here. A few minutes later, a car pulled into my driveway. It was his parents. They spoke to the police briefly, then left. By the time my husband got home, everyone was gone. The officers brushed it off as a kid being a kid. My husband later confronted the neighbors who claimed the boy had been grounded, snuck out through his bedroom window, and his mom did not tell him to come here. The father apologized and told the boy to apologize as well. The boy spat at him not long after. The parents even called us asking if he had shown up again because they couldn't find him. We hadn't seen him on our cameras, but I was furious. It's disturbing that I know more about his whereabouts than his parents do. He has to wander unsupervised for at least half an hour to reach my property, then stay there long enough for us to notice. call police and wait for them to arrive before his parents even realize he's missing. I feel guilty for calling the cops, but what choice do I have? This is a safety issue for me, for my dogs, and for the boy himself. He leaves the gate open, my dogs could bolt into the road and get killed. My home is not childproof. There was literally a flamethrower on the kitchen table the day he crawled in because my husband had used it on a spider. What if he'd touched it? I don't want to be responsible for this child, yet I also don't want to feel unsafe in my own home. Should I really have to kennel my dogs all day and lock their dog door just because my neighbor's kid was never taught boundaries? If he can sneak out of his bedroom window, what's to stop him from sneaking into mine? The what-if spiral. In my head constantly, and while it may just be anxiety, I can't help but feel angry and unsettled. Some parents simply don't take accountability. Their son doesn't just like my dogs. He ignores boundaries and treats my house like his. I'll have 911 on speed dial if this happens again. And honestly, having nieces and nephews myself, this horrifies me. Yes, kids can vanish in seconds. I understand once, maybe, but multiple times. It's with this much distance to cover. That's not kids being kids. It's negligence. And it doesn't stop there. We also own a small vacation cabin near the ocean, where families often visit. Last summer, groups of kids started hanging around, wanting to play with our daughters, who are 11 and 13. At first I thought, great, new friends. They stayed, ate, played. It was fine until one 10-year-old boy began showing up every day. He barely spoke, except to demand snacks, Coke, Oreos, cake. My daughters hated it. He wrecked their stuff and threw things at them. On the fourth day, a woman I'd never seen before arrived with him. She casually said she'd pick him up at 1 o'clock and added, "Oh, and he can't eat sulfites." Then she started walking away. I stopped her, introduced myself, and asked who she was. "Oh, we're just renting down the road," she replied. "And you are?" I pressed. "I'm his mom," she said. I explained, politely but firmly, that her son didn't seem happy here and that we'd be out on a boat with friends all day. She waved that off and said, "Okay, great. He can just hang out here," I told her. No, that wasn't safe, with the ocean right outside. She snapped back that the landlord told her we'd be happy to watch her kid because they were paying a lot of money for the rental. And she and her boyfriend were headed to a buyer festival, I told her flatly. I barely know the landlord. I doubt they said that. We're on vacation too with our own kids, and we're not babysitting. I'm sorry. That's when she got loud and aggressive. "Are you saying I don't love my kid? You rich people are all the same. You don't understand? We deserve time for ourselves." I corrected her. "My dad and I built this cabin 30 years ago. The land was cheap, and yes, we're lucky, but rich we are not. Your child isn't welcome here anymore, and you need to leave." And that was that. At that point, her son realized something bad was about to happen. He bolted into my cabin, trying to hide from his terrifying mother. Seconds later, Karen stormed in, only to be greeted by my wife, who doesn't take nonsense from anyone. Without hesitation, my wife jabbed a finger into Karen's chest, and without pausing between words, told her to get the hell out of our house. She added that she was sick of her kid, sick of both of them, and they could both take a hike. The boy darted off, and his mother followed. We never saw them again. Later we found out the woman who rented that cabin owned several others. She had been telling her tenants that our place was family-friendly, and that we were always happy to help out. Whatever that means. The only time I met her personally was when she showed up just to complain that I couldn't use a handsaw and hammer to build a picnic table. Because according to her, her renters had paid good money and shouldn't have to hear the noise. I honestly don't know where she finds these people. Most of them partied all night, let their kids run wild, and had huge unleashed dogs with zero respect for anything. While after the Karen incident, we posted signs at the entrance of our property, making it clear that we were not free babysitters. The neighborhood kids now get to choose who they spend time with, and we only welcome the families who respect us. Those folks, they get free beer, use of our kayaks and toys for their kids, entitled Karens. They get nothing. And yes, this woman actually advertised free childcare as a perk of renting her cabins. She would tell people, "Oh, just send Your kids next door? A nice family will watch them for you. Absolutely ridiculous. When I confronted her after the little boy left, I asked if she really told renters to send their kids over. She shamelessly admitted it. Of course. Such a lovely family, and your kids must love having so many new friends. No shame at all. I told her to give me her home address so I could send her a bill for childcare. Haven't seen her since. Honestly, at minimum wage, she owes my kids a few $100, a good chunk of their summers, and plenty of food. And, oh boy, the food. Now, shifting gears a bit, I'm a 28-year-old guy. And I've been in my home for a few years. One of the main reasons I picked this place was the east-facing bedroom window. Every morning, I woke up to sunlight before my alarm, and I loved it. There used to be a tree line that gave me total privacy, so I never bothered with curtains or blinds. Plus, the good ones are expensive, but recently the neighborhood expanded. They cleared the trees and built houses right across from mine directly facing my bedroom. Suddenly, I had new neighbors with a perfect view inside. Thing is, I've always slept nude. No problem when it was just me and the trees. But once that family moved in, the dad actually came over and told me to stop being naked in front of my windows. He wasn't exactly rude, but he wasn't friendly either. Just said it like an order. As if I were his kid or employee. I understood where he was coming from, so I tried to be considerate. I stopped doing chores before getting dressed, and now I at least throw on shorts before making my bed. Still, I sleep nude, so occasionally they might catch a glimpse if I forget. The father came back again, demanding I stop. I told him I was doing my best, but I wasn't going to change my lifestyle just because his family moved in. He threatened to call the police and accused me of being a menace to the neighborhood. Whatever that's supposed to mean. So here's the question: am I the jerk for continuing to sleep nude even though my neighbors might see me? This story blew up online with people debating both sides. Personally, I don't think OP is in the wrong. He's made an effort to be considerate. On the other hand, I get why the dad is frustrated. It can't be easy having to explain that to your family. Some commenters argue OP is at fault and should get sheer curtains or window film. Others even point out that in some places, being visible like that could legally count as indecent exposure. But the top comment, with 28,000 upvotes, said otherwise. OP is not the jerk. And plenty of people think the neighbors should be the ones to put up blinds if it bothers them. So what do you think? If you were in OP's shoes, would you change your routine? And with that, friends, we wrap up another wild ride through our entitled people. If you enjoyed today's stories, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss more craziness. If you missed the last episode, go check out the R. Malicious Compliance 1, it's full of people following orders to the letter and causing chaos. Until next time, Stevie Boy and I will see you in the next one. We love you guys.